Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Shelly Speaks Truth right here on 2rawfortv.tv. I am your host, Shelly, here along with my co host, Dre. And if you are here for the first time, welcome and thank you very much for joining us tonight. As you can see from the thumbnail, we will be discussing the ICE raids, but I believe that we are streaming from a few other platforms. So, what we do around here is for a portion of the show, not very long, but for a portion of the show, we do stream from other platforms outside of 2 Raw for TV. So it's usually Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube that we're also streaming from. And if you are watching from any of those other platforms, you will not be able to see the entire show from those other platforms. So you will have to come over to 2rawfortv.tv if you would like to see the entirety of the show, and I hope that you do want to see the entirety of the show. And you will have to do that by coming over to 2rawfortv.tv. That is the number 2 raw, the number 4 tv.tv. Again, that is the number 2 raw, the number 4 tv.tv, and that is where you will see the entire show. Okay, so as many of us have more than likely seen, ICE is conducting a number of raids in various cities across the country, and that has caused quite the uproar from some people. I think that there is, I don't want to say it's a split, because I think like more than 50% of the country is in agreement with the ICE raids, and then you have the other portion that is not in agreement with it. And as we can see with all the protests that are going on in various cities across the country, people are venting their frustrations with ICE. People are calling for ICE to be abolished. I don't know if ICE being abolished is the best thing. That is the arm of the federal government that deals with deportations and things like that. So how I feel about it is, when Donald Trump was running for president, he did let it be known that immigration was one of the top priorities for him. And what I've been saying for quite some time now is that I just don't understand why it is that people didn't take that seriously. Tom Homan, the border czar, he did a number of interviews leading up to the election where he continuously said that, once he became the border czar, he would be very aggressive with deportations. He would go into various cities across the country, and he would do his job. So again, I'm somewhat confused as to why people didn't really take those I don't know if I could call them threats. They were just saying that they were going to go in and do their job, and I'm not sure why people didn't take that seriously. I know there were some people that were trying to get their immigration status together, and unfortunately, it's a situation, in all honesty, where it's like, if you don't have the proper documentation to be in the country, whether it be an expired visa or you just don't have documentation at all, you really don't have any grounds to stand on for why you should be in the country. And I think that's another thing that has people not being very sympathetic, or should I say empathetic, to the ICE raids and the deportations, because they feel like for a few years, especially during the Biden administration, people were just basically taking advantage of being able to come into the United States under the Biden administration, because the immigration policies were a lot more lax than what we're seeing right now. I can remember how a lot of people were coming into the country was that app that they put out where you could, people who wanted to enter the country, they could download an app and I guess set up they could download the app, come into the country, and be put on some type of list or something like that for an immigration hearing. And I'm not sure if that's something that's ever happened before. I hadn't heard about that really during anybody else's administration in recent years, where you could download an app and pretty much just come in with no papers and things like that. So when Trump came into office, that app was shut down. And I guess that left people in limbo as far as being able to come into the country without just, taking their chances running through the border or however else they were getting in, and pretty much evading ICE agents and things like that. That app, I guess, was put into place to prevent people from just sneaking into the country, breaking in, or whatever you want to call it. It gave them something, some type of legitimacy as to why they were here. Again, when Trump came into office, that app was shut off. Like I said, I'm assuming it left millions of people who had come in limbo because they were here, and they were told that they would get immigration hearings and things like that. But once that app was shut off and the immigration policies became a lot more stringent and strict and things of that nature, it made it a lot harder for people to basically have that app as some way of legitimizing why they were in the country. So again, like I said, I'm not completely sure why it is that people who came into the country didn't really take the very stern stance that Tom Homan had against illegal immigration. And, a number of things have happened. When Trump came in, he even gave people the opportunity to self-deport, and told them, if you go ahead and self-deport right now, pack yourself up and leave the country, you'll have the opportunity to come back, through the actual legal process that you have to go through in order to become a citizen of another country. A lot of people didn't heed to that. They stayed anyway. And, we are where we are now, where you see ICE pretty much just running up on folks and I guess detaining them. I don't know if they're getting tips, because one thing that does kind of confuse me about that is if they're running up into places. I know there was some type of big raid at I believe it was a Home Depot or something like that. So they're running up in these places, and I guess they're just snatching people to see if they have documentation. I'm not really quite sure what's going on with that, because if you do run up on a site or something and you snatch up a bunch of people, how are you making a determination if they're legal or not legal just by pulling up on the scene and gaffling people up? That part of it is kind of, I'm not really in agreement with that. But I guess they don't have any other way to, detain these individuals and see who has papers and doesn't have papers. And that is another thing that is sparking a lot of outrage, because you have politicians who are, coming to ICE facilities. I believe I want to say about a week or so ago, a mayor of a city, I can't remember the exact city right now, but it was a mayor of a city who went to a ICE facility and got into it with ICE agents and things like that. He ended up being arrested. So we see a lot of crazy things happening right now, where you have politicians who are, really stumping hard against the immigration, or should I say the ICE raids that are happening right now. And the other day, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, she went to a facility and she went to the door and she said she wants to use her congressional privilege or something like that to get into the facility. And unfortunately for her, the door was slammed in her face. They did not let her in. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. But again, you see a lot of politicians arriving at these facilities and trying to come inside. They're saying that people's constitutional rights are being violated. And then on the other side of the aisle, you have people saying where if they're not here legally, they're not citizens, they don't have any type of documentation that legitimizes them being here, they really don't have any constitutional rights. So it's a lot of back and forth with that. And what we're seeing right now at these protests, there's people of various backgrounds out there, but there are a lot of Mexicans out there, I guess, for whatever reason it may be. Mexicans seem to be more of a target in these ICE raids, at least what we can see, you know, what is being broadcast on TV and things like that. There are people of other backgrounds that are being deported. It's not just Mexicans, but we're seeing Mexicans are really out there in full force. And, you know, there's a number of things that are happening right now, like I said, that are causing people to not be so empathetic towards these anti-ICE protests. For example, you have people waving the Mexican flag around, chanting "Death to America" and things like that. So what a lot of people are saying in response to that is, why are you protesting to stay in a country while waving a foreign flag and saying death to that particular country? So that is kind of, you know, angering certain people, and, you know, calling for them to get out of here even faster. I've seen a number of TikTok videos where people are echoing those sentiments of, how are you protesting to stay in a country that you're calling for the death of and for the fall of? And that part of it doesn't make sense to me either. I would think that if you were fighting to stay in a country, you wouldn't necessarily be calling for the destruction of that country while waving a foreign flag on that country's soil. So again, there's a lot of strange things that are happening, and my opinion about the entire thing, like I said before, I don't understand why people didn't take it seriously when they told people exactly what they were going to do. And again, you know, the only explanation I could kind of think of for that is that people got very comfortable and entitled under the Biden administration, to where they just felt like, you know, they were going to have some type of leg to stand on. And the Trump administration, along with Tom Homan, ICE agents, and others, are showing them that that is definitely not the case in this situation. They're going full force with the ICE detainments, I should say. So again, at these protests, you do have a number of people protesting, but one particular group of people that are not out there in any type of noticeable numbers is the Black community. And there's various reasons for that. For one, you have the Kamala Harris supporters. You know, her 92% of voters who voted did vote for Kamala Harris. Black voters, of the Black voters who voted, the numbers suggest that 92% of those individuals who voted for Kamala Harris. So they have a stance where they feel like you voted against your own interests if you voted for Donald Trump, because you do have people in the Latin community that voted for Donald Trump in pretty large numbers. So they're saying, okay, you went out there and voted for Donald Trump knowing that there were people in the Latin community and others who did not have the proper documentation to be in the country. So basically you voted against your own community, and why should we care because we told you to vote for Harris and things like that. You have the other sector of Black people that are saying they've been pretty much waiting for these people to get deported because they dumped them in the Black community at about 70-something percent of illegal migrants that came here were placed in Black communities. So you've seen things like resources being drained from the community that people, Black people in the Black community, felt like could have been invested into infrastructure and different things that black people needed in their communities where they're paying taxes. And I definitely agree with that. You have cities like Chicago that went $1 billion in debt. Chicago, New York was overrun with these immigrants, and their mayor voiced several times that the city just could not financially handle the strain that was being placed on the city with housing, feeding, providing medical care and things like that to people who, just really and truthfully should not be in the country. So what we're seeing now is, a number of videos and people on, I was driving today and I had the radio on and they had people calling in, and the question was, is the immigration issue, is that a black issue? And obviously there are black immigrants, so it's a black issue to a degree. But I guess when you're speaking specifically about black people who are citizens and who have several generations here in this country who are not immigrants, a lot of them are saying that this immigration issue is nowhere near their problem or issue. But you do have, different people who are saying that as a black person, how could you not stand with people who are being oppressed? Because we've been oppressed in this country for a couple of centuries now. So if anyone should know about oppression and what it feels to be violated by your government, black people should know and feel some sort of empathy for these individuals who are being deported at this time. And I'm not saying that people can't have empathy for them. I have a degree of empathy for some of the things that I'm seeing, but at the same time, I've been confused about what their premise is, because they're protesting for people who broke the law knowingly. And like, what is that? For me, I don't feel like that's something that I should get behind, because
I think you're asking some of the right questions. I don't think you're asking enough questions, because I think you're heading down the right path when you're asking, like, who, like, where is this, why is this any of black people's business, and why should people stand up and stuff like that. Some of the questions I think that need to follow up with that is like, okay, well, where energy coming from? Like, where's all this money coming from? Where's the people, those type of energies, those type of questions I think really need to be followed up, because I think once you keep on going down the path of the questions, you kind of realize that this is really not organic. A lot of it is, but there's an organic energy that's being taken advantage of.
Well, yeah. I mean, we see that with almost every protest that has happened in I guess we can take it all the way back to the civil rights movement, where you have what they call bad actors and things like that who come out to, I guess, muddy the waters of what is a legitimate protest, but then they start mixing all other types of agendas into it. I'm hearing that these protests have been spearheaded by the cartels. That's what a lot of people are saying.
Well, that's an important thing, because like when you say over the past few years, right, the border's been open and there's millions and millions of immigrants been coming over there, but the majority, it's not been an overwhelming majority of Mexicans. They've been Venezuelans and this and that and the other thing. Yeah, they've been coming through Mexico, but the overwhelming number has not been Mexican. So all of a sudden, we're seeing all this Mexican resistance to Venezuelans and this and that, and all these other people, Haitians and everybody else is getting deported, right? But it's largely not. It's not a predominantly Mexican deportation going on, right? But the uprising that's coming out of California, that started in California, it's like you said, Mexicans flags, and so those are great questions. Why Mexican flags? And is somebody telling you to fly this flag? It, it,
I'm not sure what's going on. Like I said, when these protests occur, there's people who jump in there and, have their agendas going on as well. Is it being spearheaded by the cartel? I think that's a very interesting dynamic that is very much a possibility. I mean, when you think about how, excuse me, how much money was being made for the cartels during the Biden era, then, you start to think. Under Trump's administration, a lot of that stuff is being shut down, so caller, you're live.
Yes, I wanted to call in on your live. Should the black community get involved with the protests against Biden?
Okay,
you're live.
you're live.
All right, my name is Yasmina from Las Vegas. So I want to take the time to say, I guess what I'm wondering is get involved and do what? If anything, I'm surprised that nobody's getting involved in telling the children to go home, to not die. And I guess I'm really surprised if that's not the bigger conversation. I am listening, and it's like, hey, when we were out there, where were they? I've definitely experienced, I'll say, from all different other colors of people feeling like, well, black people can't control their emotions and so forth, and probably along the lines somewhat of maybe they felt we deserved that. So it's kind of like people are sitting back like, oh, now you know what it feels like, and I just feel like, how come nobody's thinking about the children?
I mean, that's a very interesting point to make. But like I was saying before, I kind of feel as if there is, a bigger issue at play here. Like I said, people were even speaking about how they feel like there's a lot of involvement from the cartel, which, there's a possibility that a lot of this could be manufactured. So, and when you're thinking about...
I think with the cartel, yeah.
Yeah,
Because with the cartel, Pablo Escobar, I don't know if I'm the only one that watched that. I was thinking, I was looking at all this, and I said the problem is with the cartel, they are the reason a lot of people don't want to go to Mexico, and the whole reason why you have so many corrupt people. But I don't think they know what else the cartel could do, because you can't have somebody that has that much power and say, hey, stop selling drugs and doing all this. A prime example, Pablo Escobar. He did try to get into the government and do something that was correct, and they threw him out. And boy, once he did that, did that become a very, very big problem?
yeah.
I think that everyone's so busy stuck to the old tradition and the old thought patterns from the dead. Every time somebody's speaking, they're telling me about something that happened from 50 years ago, 100 years ago. I'm like, those people are dead. And everyone is literally distracted from their children. Every single color, every single race, and the children are the one that's suffering.
So I was hearing from one of the leaders, one of the organizers of the protests in LA, and he was actually a high school teacher. So that's why I think it was interesting, your point about the children, right? And the audio that was captured from this guy, he's a longtime person that he's calling for the fall of the United States of America, right? He's a high school teacher here in the United States of America, a history teacher at that, right? So even there is a force, especially going after the children and gearing their minds a certain way, right? And it's very easy through social media, right? Because through repetition, and social media, it's easy to get the repetition. You know what I mean? So it's like things start to becoming true all of a sudden. I wish I knew this gentleman's thing, but there's a special that's coming
I mean,
on.
there's plenty of them out there. There's plenty of them out there that are, this is my moment to shine. To me, I don't care if it is a high school teacher. What I'm saying is people that never got the emotional validation that they were looking for. That honestly, that's the whole wide world. That's what everybody's fighting about. They all want emotional validation, and the grown-ups are so busy fighting about it that they're neglecting their children. It's children out there protesting, and people are trying to figure out if they should help based on their skin tone. I'm surprised a black person, because they do have the loudest voice, says, hey, go home. Your parents okay with you out here ready to die? Go home. That's what I think the black people should do, because they do have the strongest voice. Tell those children to go home.
A very good point. Very good point, Carla. Thank you for that.
I don't disagree with you, but I kind of feel like, you know, they have the children out there so they can kind of garner more empathy for their cause, is what I'm thinking.
I think it's because the children are easily led. That's
well,
why
the children are easily led, but when you put everything in context, and you know the media, they're going to be out there with the cameras, and the whole point of this is for people to come out there and be a part of it, to take part in it, to be empathetic towards the cause and things like that. So I could see why they would have the children in the mix. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with it, but you know, just putting everything in context.
Well, when I say children, I mean 25-year-olds. Those are children to me. I mean, honestly, the average human brain is actually globally of a 14-year-old. The average comprehension level of a 14-year-old. So a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, honestly, what's sad is they're out there because these people keep making their children their husband and wives. I got to protect my mom. How backwards is that? I thought the parent was supposed to protect the child.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but you know, like I said, this is something that is being broadcast all across the world, so I understand the angle that they're trying to use. But I'll let you get the last word.
Yes, thank you. The thing is, the conversation I'm having, I'm noticing nobody's thinking about the children. That's what I'm thinking to myself, and I'm just like, God. And I did make a post where I said, kids, these celebrities are actually amplifying chaos, waving their flags from the stage. What a joke! They're about to go home and hop in their luxury cars, and you are out there with trained Marines. And it's unfortunate the way the process is going, but I think for people to sit back and this conversation has gone on for so long, and black people feel like they have the loudest voice, it's probably the perfect time to do it and think about the children and not somebody's skin color.
Yeah. Like I said, I see where you're coming from, but my opinion about it is that the black community has a lot of issues, and we kind of need to focus on ourselves right now. But thank you very, very much for calling in and sharing your thoughts.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope you guys take that into consideration.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, as the caller was saying, like I said, I don't disagree with her perspective on that, where, you know, people do need to think about the children and, you know, what type of situation this is putting them in. But what I also would say to that is that a lot of these individuals who came into the country, they use their children as anchors. And I'm not saying that to be mean. It's just the reality of what happened, because when we think about the whole debate around birthright citizenship, you had people coming over here who were undocumented and having children. Now the children became citizens, but the parents were still not citizens. So what, in my opinion, what type of position is that for you to put your child in? And some people are being deported. Their children are citizens, so the children are not being deported, but then you're being deported back home because you thought that you had a shoe in by having a child on American soil, but again, you were not a citizen, and this administration is trying to even do away with birthright citizenship. So they are being very strict against, people who are here who does not have documentation. And I mean, like I said, I am trying to figure out where this is going and what people are trying to accomplish with this, because to be real and to be very honest, they are within their legal right to deport these people. They're not citizens.
So that's the thing, right? There's this, the people are protesting against the federal government actually doing their job. They're enforcing the laws they're not making up new laws. They're enforcing the laws that are already been on the books, right? So there's protests going on for that. And then when you look further, when you look into the protests, like last night I had some channels going on, and shout outs to Raw for TV was streaming, and it started erupting in different cities, including Atlanta, right? And one of the things that I picked up was the messaging, right? The messaging of the protests, because you know how they do the chants. There's the chants about fuck ICE, right? And then they're going into fuck Trump, right? And then it goes into, the colonizers. And then it goes into Zionists. And it's just like, okay, wait a minute. What's actually going on? Like, it's definitely more than one thing. And then coming up this week, well, there's a lot of controversy coming up this Saturday because Donald Trump's birthday, and he's also doing the biggest military celebration that we've ever had. Well, a lot of people are saying, well, that's a dictatorship type of thing, because you don't see that. You only see big military display by like China and Russia. That's where you just see those type of things, right? You don't see big military tanks and big military parades in the streets of the United States of America, right? And people are saying that he's just showing his dictatorship type thing with, especially doing it on Flag Day, which is his birthday.
Maybe that's why they're doing it.
Well, that's what he's saying.
Some type of patriotism thing.
Well, that's what he's saying, right?
So
but of
why
course,
do people think that's not what it is?
Because it happens to be his birthday, right?
I don't understand how any of that stuff is correlated to being a dictator. If you want to show patriotism for your country on Flag Day, which happens to be your birthday.
Well, simultaneously, the same organizers of this, because there's a lot of organizers. I don't think it's just the cartel, and the only reason I say that is because when I listen to the messaging, you know what I mean? When I listen to the messaging, it's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe the cartel is definitely involved because there's a lot of money going, right? But
I definitely believe there's some involvement. I'm not saying the whole thing is the cartel, but I believe the cartel is getting there,
Right.
Yeah, there are people out there too.
I also see these people that are controlling the media and all of those people that, there's money coming from a lot of different places and a lot of it to do this, and they're planning the same really big protests all over cities in the United States on the same day that the president is planning on this big thing. So it's like, to me, it's like more than just the ICE thing, or more than just it. It's really, okay, you know what? Here, opposition to this president. Let's overthrow this shit.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna turn out for them the way they think it is. I think what Donald Trump is doing right now is trying to show, like I said, a show of force. I don't know if it's coming from the angle of being a dictator, I don't know what's in his mind. I can't say it's not. I can't say it is. But what I'm picking up from what you just described, he's trying to show that America isn't weak, because what, you know, during his run for president, he continuously talked about how Joe Biden was weak, how pretty much the whole world was laughing at America, and his thing was to come back in and show that America is not weak, and you know, be that show of force. I think that may have a lot to do with whatever this thing is that they have going on Saturday. It's just to show that America is strong and, you know, show force. That's what I'm picking up from that.
Yeah, I mean, well, he even said, like, he was in France or whatever, and they were celebrating the victory or whatever victory, World War II victory or whatever they were celebrating, and he was like, well, America did the most of the work there. You don't see, like, we've never celebrated like why not?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I said I don't necessarily agree that it's some type of dictator thing. Again, I don't know, but I just don't feel like that's what it is. Like I said, I believe it's more along the lines of showing that this nation is strong and all that. Because, you know, during the Biden administration, a lot of people were saying that America looks weak. We have a president that's falling asleep everywhere and looking like they're 3,000 years old and stuff like that. So
advertisement for the military became inclusion advertisements.
I mean, damn, they want everybody to join the military, so I don't know. I guess you gotta make everybody feel like they're included. But I'm just saying, a lot of people ain't even try to join the military, so I guess under this administration you'll see more people wanting to join, especially since, you know, people are saying they feel like America is under attack right now. And like I said before, you know, sticking to the question of tonight's show, I just don't really see where black people really have a place in these protests. I mean, what are we protesting? It's not really anything we can do about this. Why are we going to go out there and get beat in the head with billy clubs and sprayed with pepper spray? And
so let me ask you this, though. You know the old saying, if you're not with me, you're against me. Does that mean because black people shouldn't be out there in the protest, does that mean that, you know, black people are on the side of this administration with this whole deportation?
A lot of black people are on the side of the administration with deportations. Blacks, the blacks. If you ask some of the black people who voted why they voted for Trump, they voted for him for deportations.
Well, that's one of the things that I was looking forward to. I'm not even going to sit here in front. And you know,
I'm not against anybody. Like, I'm not against these people. I don't have any emotional investment into being against them. I just feel like what they did was not. It wasn't on the up and up. And if we go to Mexico right now and think we're gonna set up shop, we'll be detained, we'll be deported, and we'll be lucky if we don't get our head bashed in. So it's like, what do they think this is? I think people think America is like a free for all.
You're damn sure gonna be extorted.
Oh yeah, yeah, but you'll be deported as well if you don't get locked up. I mean, you're not gonna just go into any other country and just say, I'm a citizen now. You better let me stay. You better give me whatever I asked for. Like I said, I feel like a lot of these people got a big sense of entitlement under the Biden administration because they were getting a lot of resources.
So what is that? So how does that look, right? What is it? What do you say to the people who say, how do you now all of a sudden jump on the side of your colonizer, speaking to black people, right? Because black people aren't with this jumping on board with this resistance. So there's their narrative going on now that's saying, hey, listen, well, all of a sudden now you're on the side of the colonizer, Mr. Uncle Tom.
I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself and people who are in alignment with my thought process on this. Like I said, a lot of the people that came into this country with no papers, no real resources to take care of themselves, they were dumped in the black communities. They suck resources out of the black communities where people are paying taxes and are being, are not having proper access to resources, and then you got people coming in draining so a black person supporting you staying here is going against their own best interests. So that doesn't make them an Uncle Tom, if you ask me.
And I think it goes on top. I think it goes a little bit further than that, because on top of everything that you just said, right? They also came in here with better than you attitude, a holier than thou attitude. My nose is kind of up in the air when I look at you attitude. And it's been widely felt throughout black communities in America for many years now. Many years now, as long as I've been here. And that's over 30 years. So this is not something new. It may be more predominant lately because just so many more people, right? So you see it a lot more, but it's always been there. So let's not act like that's not a thing either. Just last year, this guy, what's his name? And I know he's not Mexican, but he is Hispanic, came out and there's this whole big thing about who created hip hop, and taking that from, trying to take that from the black community, and who did more for hip hop and all kinds of.
You're talking about Fat Joe?
Was that? Yeah.
That clown.
Right. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it's not like it's just one thing. There's a lot of things, right? So really and truly, like for anybody saying how you sided when you colonized us, I would say, well, that's what you were doing until the colonizer told you had to go.
I don't think they fully. This thing is multifaceted. Okay. You might have some black people who are siding with the colonizers. I mean, you do have that portion of black society who want to, rub elbows with the colonizers, and that's on them. That doesn't have anything to do with the sentiments of black people who just want to look out for the best interest of black Americans. I think people tend to forget that there are black people in this country who are American, whose family has centuries of blood in the soil. The descendants of the people that whose labor actually built this nation. So you're talking about people who are American. And it has nothing to do with siding with a colonizer. Like I said before, people don't want to see all the resources drained out of their communities by people that are not really contributing anything.
But that sentence alone would be siding with the colonizer, right? Because
my ancestors are the people that put the labor and the infrastructure and the economy into building this nation. So we're not gonna just overlook what our ancestors did because somebody wants to say we're siding with the colonizers. No. We have a vested interest in what our ancestors had to struggle and go through, not being exploited by people that didn't damn contribute to it. It's not siding with a colonizer.
Well, because and the reason why it actually is
no,
because
it's not.
is because it's not black people that black people did all the work and everything. But it's not black people who colonized this and call it America and keep it America, right? If it was black people controlled, it could have been called Mecca or some goddamn thing else. It could have been called East Africa for all you know.
It could be, it coulda, woulda, shoulda, but it's not.
Right. So
And
that's my
we
point.
don't appreciate people trying. They had the nerve to even say that immigrants built America. How that those two things are a major contradiction. How did immigrants build a country that they weren't even in when in its inception? So it's disrespectful, is my point. It's very disrespectful to think that the people who are the descendants of the individuals that built this nation should be put on the back burner for people who didn't contribute to that. We're just not going for that. People can call it siding with the colonizer all they want to. It doesn't change the fact that we deserve to get what we deserve to get from this nation. And it shouldn't be exploited by other people and then try to say, oh, you're siding with the colonizer. Listen, a bunch of places in this world was colonized. And those individuals who are coming over here who are not white, they always side with the colonizers. So it's just very rich to me that they're trying to guilt trip black people into going out there and lending our allyship when they were in town hall meetings telling us no more money for you and things like that. No, black people are not going to go out there and ally with you because you came over here and shitted on us. So it's counterproductive for us to go out there, if you ask me. I don't see any reason for us to be out there. We're not even, I'll say this. I think that more black people, because when people come out and pretend like they're allying with us, because a lot of those people don't be out there allying with us. They be out there, they be the ones that be looting and stealing out the stores while we're getting bashed in the head when we protest against police brutality and things like that. But when they want to come out there and just get in the mix, we're protesting our human and civil rights being violated because we are citizens of this country. These people want us to go out there and protest for them to stay here when they don't have the documentation to be here. Now, if people were being deported unjustly, I believe a lot of black people would go out there. But that's not what's happening. Because black people usually do lend allyship when there's causes that are happening that aren't just. But what's going to be the argument? Let them stay because they want to? Like, I just don't get what the hell this whole thing is all about. From my understanding, they're not deporting people who have proper paperwork. Like if your visa's good, if you are, on the path to citizenship and things like that.
Oh, but
to my understanding, those people are not being deported. So
no, that's not quite accurate. You could have a right now you could have an appointment to.
Oh, you know what? You're right. You're right, because I heard earlier them mentioning something about people going in for it wasn't exactly what you were talking about. It wasn't their hearing, like for immigration hearing. It was like a immigration check-in or something. I never heard of that. Right. But immigration check-in, and they were being detained at the immigration check-in. So yeah, like I said, there's some things that are going on that I don't 100% agree with.
People were going to the roll calls for their cases, and the case would be dismissed for them to walk out and get handcuffed.
Oh, okay. So they doing what America does. Some sleight of hand tricks and little under the table stuff. Yeah, I mean that's on par with America. Again, America ain't a squeaky clean nation by any means, and I will never sit here and be like, well, America is just the shining star. No, we all know how America gets down. But again, what are we going to say? There's nothing we can do, so why even go out there? And like someone said yesterday on another show that I was watching regarding to this, black people are going to go out there. They're going to be the first ones to get snatched up. They're going to be the first ones to get knocked across the head. We already know how this goes. So why even go out there? And then you're gonna do it, and they're probably still not gonna let these people stay anyway. So what is the point? Is what I've been saying this entire time. There's really, I guess people are saying, a show of resistance against these policies, and if they see that, a lot of people don't agree with this, but it's like, the black community needs to be taking this time to really figure out what our next moves are.
So hold on. I mean, honestly, so question here for the opposition, the people that are saying resist, the people that right now, I'm driving down the street and the overpass people are holding signs and saying resist, and okay, resist what? That's my question.
ICE and the immigration laws and that sort of thing is what I'm guessing they're protesting against. Because if not, what are they out there for?
But if you're resisting that, you're resisting the United States government enforcing their own laws. So you're resisting the United States government.
I mean, like, you have American politicians. You have American politicians that's on the side of these people. So, yes. Like I said, this is a very interesting, situation that we're all witnessing here, where you have Congress members and things like that are siding with the people that came into the country with no paperwork.
I don't understand it, because even Gavin Newsom came out and he's now positioned himself as the Democratic leader that's in opposition of Trump, right? Coming out there saying, "Oh, California will fight," because this whole Donald Trump sent the military people to disperse whatever, and it's just like, bro, what are you guys up to? If you don't like the laws, make rallies, do amendments. You guys know, y'all are politicians. Like, y'all know how to do this shit.
Them people are grandstanding. Okay, they're not about to change no laws. They're trying to get an angle for the Democrats, because the Democrats have fallen off real bad. They don't even have any front runners for president in this next election. So they're trying to regain some sense of validity. And I guess, by them resisting and being able to get these people pushed through the system and become citizens, I guess they feel like they'll be able to gain, a form of political power again. I don't know how far they think they're going to get with that, because the Trump administration, again, is very adamant about pushing through their immigration agenda. And right now, he's the president. So I don't know how far they think they're going to get with that. And, I mean, with this divide that's happening, even though Trump wants to show a show of force for America, we're strong, we're in the game, we're not taking no mess, blah, blah, blah. The country does look weakened when it's so divided. You got American politicians, and not that politicians have always agreed, because no, that definitely has not been the case. But to this degree that we're seeing politicians be willing to get themselves arrested in order to provide cover for people who broke the law of the country, it looks weird. It looks weird, and it does make the nation look weak, in my opinion. And like somebody said the other day, with all this, with these politicians resisting the president and saying we're going to fight, and we're going to basically provide cover for these people to stay here. There's some people, across seas that might got some beef with us. That's like, it's the perfect time to move in with all this fighting that's going on. Let's slip up in there and get us a few rounds off, or, whatever the case may be. It would be the ample time to do it. So, I don't know. Again, my stance as far as it relates to the black community getting involved, no, we can sit this one out. Our presence isn't going to really change any type of laws. I don't think us going out there is going to allow anyone to stay in this country, because again, the laws are already on the books. There hasn't been any type of congressional hearings to change any of these laws, so I don't know where this is going to lead to. Are they trying to just start an all-out war? I don't know what the angle is. As I continue to say, what if we're supposed to go out there and stand on the side of these people? What is our mission? What are we standing up for? Because as it is to me right now, there's really no merit to these protests. And people might get offended by that, but there's no merit to it because there's really nothing that anybody can do legally to help these people. I don't know. But before I get out of here, because the show is coming to an end, I want to show a video that got me into a little bit of a debate where I ended up having to block somebody on my Facebook because they got upset with me because of my thoughts on this video. So I just want to run the video really quick.
You're out here blocking folk?
You know, the block hand been pretty strong lately because I'm just not doing the back and forth with people anymore. Like, you're not changing my mind, I'm not changing your mind. Blocked.
Fuck, yo. City schools are predominantly Hispanic. They were having their graduation. And there's helicopters in the sky. And a bunch of parents have to run out because ISIS is there. They don't have papers. And they had to leave their kids because the kids do. What type of shit is this, yo? And then kids are freaking grabbing teachers and crying on their leg because they don't know if they're about to see their parents when they get home. What the fuck is this? And we voted for this shit? 15 people just got picked up on Wilshire at the Home Depot. On Wilshire. Yo. Man, oh my God. This is not right. This is not right, yo.
Almost as if it was a chase. They got together in the caravan, and we watched as those agencies, or those three vans, went to the Roybal federal building where they took the people that they...
Okay, so as you all can see, the gentleman in the video was talking about, and I think they said it was a kindergarten graduation? No? I could have swore that's what it said in the subtitles. But anyway, regardless of whatever grade level it was, he's saying that he was told that the graduation was raided. I'm not 100% for sure. I'm not 100% sure I believe that. It could. I mean, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I don't feel like that's a true story. But even if it is, you know, what made this individual who jumped into, well, actually it was his post with that video on it. It's how I actually initially saw the video. And I just commented, I don't understand why he's crying for folks that probably wouldn't be crying for him.
I'm just saying, when did illegal people that are moving illegal start moving like they're legal? Like, I've been around people that done illegal stuff and move illegal. I've done illegal moves. When you're doing an illegal move, you move illegally. Like, you don't move like somebody who's moving completely legally. You just don't do that.
Well, when you've had 3 full years of having the red carpet rolled out for you, and then you get detained, and then you get released, and one of those, I think, wasn't that bill that got passed, Lincoln Riley Act or something like that? It's to my understanding that that guy had been detained before, and then he was released.
Yeah.
So these people were being picked up and getting put back out on the streets. So once you get into a situation where you get comfortable with being able to break the law, and then you're let back out into the general population, I mean, some people are going to be like, hey, it's all good.
So it's the greater, baby.
But yeah, you know, like I said, my thoughts on that video was he's doing all this crying and wailing, and honestly, I just don't think that them people he crying and wailing for would have been doing the same to him. And if I'm being real, I'm happy to see that there is a large portion of black people that are starting to burn the capes and not running to everybody's aid all the time like we've done for generations in this country, because we need to focus on our own agendas just like everybody else does. I don't think we should be shamed into doing anything that we don't feel like we want to do. And that's my thoughts on it. So we have come to the conclusion of the show, and I would like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. God willing, I will be back here again next week. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on 2rawfortv.tv. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.